to my students.
Excellent. All right. Well, there may be still some people coming in as people sort themselves out, but we're going to go ahead and get started so that we have plenty of time to hear. It is my pleasure to introduce Sam Etienne, who is the principal of a school in Elizabeth, New Jersey, a pre-K through 8 public school and a ride school. And today he's going to be talking with us about the ways in which we can actively get involved in school-based district work around equity and a focus on belongingness, especially in terms of student voice at this time of COVID. So we're thrilled to have you here today, Sam, and I'm going to leave it to you to introduce your two amazing scholars who are here with us to share the student perspective.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mary. It's always a pleasure to be amongst RIDE's leaders and those who want to be part of this work to change the trajectory of our state or even our whole country. So I'm humbled to be here. I have two beautiful students of mine, and they are scholars. I tell you, they are two of our 8th graders, Janiyah Smith and Danielle Toro. So I don't know, I would like to maybe leave it up to them if they want to say something briefly. And then what I will do is then go briefly to a quick presentation. So I do want to give everybody an opportunity to ask questions, not just me, but certainly our students. So Janiyah, I don't know if you want to say something really brief, go right ahead.
Hi, my name is Janiyah. I'm in 8th grade at Winfield. I just want to say thank you for having me here. This is like really nice to be here, and I hope you guys really enjoy what we had to say, and I would love to get feedback from all of you guys.
Excellent. Danielle?
Hi, my name is Danielle Toro. I'm an 8th grader at Winfield Scott School number 2, and I would like to voice my opinion about what I feel about how we should change the school system, about equality and stuff like that in the classrooms, and just in general. So I would like feedback from you guys too.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. Excellent job, ladies. All right, so I'm just going to try to share my screen. I do have a quick overview just to kind of help me and set the stage to give you a brief background. So just give me 1 second and hopefully you're able to see my screen as I share it. Please let me know, are you able to see the
Yes.
my screen right now? Yes?
Yep.
All right, beautiful. Let me just go to the presentation. And just a brief background of my school, which is Elizabeth Public School. Hopefully this is it's going through and it's working. Okay, screen sharing. So, all right. Wait, let's exit the page. So see what happened. Offline.
Doesn't technology always do that when you're just when you
when
ready
we're
to
getting
go?
ready to start? So let me just see if I can bring it back up one more time. Let me bring it to it from a different location. But while I do this, I guess what I could do is just briefly just share briefly about my school. So it's located in Elizabeth, New Jersey. It's a school where we have 627 students who are the population. It's a pre-K to 8th grade. And we have the background, the breakdown of student population. I have that. Just give me 1 second. Let me try to share my screen once again. Let's try it again. All right, okay, share. All right. All right, let's try this. Here we go. Are you able to see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
See the presentation?
Yes.
All right, let's see if it works now. Oh,
We got
okay,
it,
here
Sam. You're up.
Oh,
Awesome, awesome. So just give you a quick roadmap of a school context, who we are, and I want to just briefly give you some data as to how we selected some of the different problems and some of the areas that we wanted to focus. A quick 5 whys protocol where we involve our students and our teachers, followed by where we created a student and teacher focus group. And ladies, both Janaya and Danielle could also speak to that. And then just want to briefly go back to the panorama data again to kind of give you why I kind of shared in the beginning. Maybe the numbers didn't make sense, but as you see the whole process, you'll be able to just make sense afterwards. So briefly, this is our breakdown of our population of students. We have 55% Hispanic and 38% African American from 627 students. 5% are white and 2% Asian. Our Gen Ed is 66%, ELL is 25%, and a special ed is about 9%. We are 83 or 87+% of reduced lunch. And I just have to tell you, our school is located right next to Halfway House and to also YMCA, which held uh, those who doesn't necessarily have any shelter, battered women, just a lot of different things. So my school is a school that is a neighborhood school. So we have students that are from the area, and we do have a population of maybe 5% or so of students who are in between, that are homeless or are in shelters as well. So a quick panorama data to give you an overview of how our fall session have been. So this year, it's the first year where Panorama has an Access of Equity and Inclusion survey. And the percentage of our students who took it was from our 6th to 8th grade. So you'll see it says grade 6 to 12. However, our school is just populated with 6th grade to 8th grade, and it's about 153 students who took it in the fall. And in spring, about 130. And we were just so happy to have this data back so that we could even share, because we just got this right off hot the press from yesterday, the total data. So during the fall, when we gave this out, this is our fall data where it says diversity inclusion was about 69%. And compared to the nation or whoever took this survey, we were at around between the 20 to 39% percentile. Cultural awareness, we were at the 60 to 79 percentile of the nation, but we were at 62%. So our school, we focused on cultural awareness. That was the area that we focused on for grade 6 to 8. And that's how we involve our students for this past school year. And as you can see, the data shows a growth when we gave it out this past month ago. And this is what shown. The diversity shows some improvement, 60 to 70%, a 10% increase. And cultural awareness, we did move to the 90th or so percentile. And this is, again, just a brief overview of our social emotional. So there are 2 aspects of our panorama. I think there's also 3, but right now I just wanted to just focus on the 2, which was a social emotional and also equity and inclusion. And this is the data from the fall for our grades 3 to 5. And this is our grades 3 to 5 for the spring. As you can see, there's shown a large growth overall for the area of teacher-student relationship, sense of belonging, and engagement. And this is where we also focus on the past year when we first started with rides. That was a year ago in 2019. Again, this year we didn't focus so much on our area for teacher-student relationship or sense of belonging engagement for 6 to 12 or 6 to 8. However, we did see a small growth, a small improvement. But the year that we focused on sense of belonging with our grades 6 to 8, which was the fall of 2019, and what you could see in 2019, there was a big growth. So if you think about teacher-student relationship, where we had an 18% growth, that means we were at the 30th percent, right? So in 2019 or so, we were at 30% of students felt there was the teacher relationship was at that level. However, when we retested again because of COVID, we did not have a spring panorama end of the year survey. So what happened was we were still able to see an 18% growth, which was 58. And it's the same with sense of belonging. So we were in the 34 or so percent, but then in the fall of 2020, we saw we was at 41. So overall, we were still in the positive side. So quickly, 5 Whys protocol, and I think many of you may be familiar with the 5 Whys. However, what we did in our school, we did have an opportunity where we had our students, our grades 6 to 8, who took a survey, and we identified questions where we had them take these questions, and we saw that the students, how they answered. But one thing that didn't happen is that our teachers, we wanted to make sure we have our teachers also take a survey to see what their thoughts were. So for instance, a question that came, which was, if you walk into class upset, how many of your teachers will be concerned? And 30% of our students kind of said there was about maybe 30% of our teachers would be concerned. However, when we asked the same question to our teachers, when a student walked into class upset, do you ask them if they are okay? 90% of teachers felt that they were asking if they were okay. So there was a discrepancy overall. And then we could keep going to another question. So for instance, how many of your teachers would you be excited to have again in the future? 32% of our students felt they would want to have their teacher again. However, similar question to teachers, how many of your students would be excited to have you again? 91% of our teachers felt that they would want that. So what happened when we shared this data with our teachers, what the students said, and also their response. So there was kind of like, they felt like, wow, why this big discrepancy? Their heart was kind of like, oh man, what happened? And the same vice versa, when we shared it with our students, there was a similar reaction as well. And these are some of the different questions that we asked our students when we conducted a 5 Why. That was back in spring of 2020, right prior to us leaving for COVID, because we didn't have school. So these are some of the things that we worked on, and we noticed that we did see a growth overall. And the connection and understanding adults in school. So we saw, we asked questions about what are some of the assumptions. Some of the students felt it was fake. They bring their anger towards students. They pretend they care when we know they don't. So these were some of the responses that students felt around teachers. So this was spring of last year. However, this past year, we looked at the equity portion. And the equity portion, what we identified was a problem of practice was students and teachers rarely learn about or engage in conversation about other races and cultures and ethnicities. And when we asked our students, and we had some 5th grade all the way up to 8th grade, about 11 students, and we started to drill down why. We started asking them the question of why, and we continued to drill those questions down. Why do you feel that we don't rarely engage in conversation about race and culture? So one of the first why, students and teachers don't want to offend anyone. That's what the student says. Because many people, students and teachers, are sensitive. People take it the wrong way. It's an emotional and personal topic. Why? When people talk about it in class, other people make fun of them. They feel insecure about talking about it. Why? Because those who make fun of others may feel insecure themselves, and they don't have anything to talk about. Therefore, they make fun of others. This is what the students are saying. They are not aware or know a lot about their own culture because their parents may not be aware of themselves. Their grandparents did not talk about it themselves, or they did not talk about it to their children. Then another why was the American school system doesn't teach anyone else history but their own. Another why, we only hear about American point of view, period. So maybe Danielle could help me out, and Janiyah, because they told me to put that in all cap and put a T at the end. I know they're smiling and laughing. And another why was the American school system is whitewashed. how we only hear about the only 3 Black influence, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, or Harriet Tubman. We only talk about it during Black History Month. We only hear about it during a special event only. We don't hear about it any other race, people from other cultures. So this is what the students were saying. And then we did find an opportunity to have our groups by teachers, because we didn't want to just have this showing what the students are saying. We also wanted to capture what the teachers were saying. And this is what the teachers said. So when we had our students, a voice happened first, a week, and then the following week we had our teachers. And the teachers didn't see the students respond. And this is what our teachers, we selected some of our top teachers, and this is what they said. Students and teachers don't feel comfortable to talk about race. They may not understand or know much about it. We don't want to hurt someone else's feeling for them to take it the wrong way. And it's, you know, you're talking about this, we're 5th graders answering before, and this is our teachers who are responding to the same question. The second why was they feeling unheard, not seen, may fall in deaf ear. It's scary, repercussion, outcast, don't want to look stupid, talk about something that an adult might not know about. Don't want to feel stupid for not knowing, feeling judged. But why? We didn't have culturally diverse textbook or material to engage with. We just don't know how. Not equipped with the skills or set to in order to have these conversations. The teachers didn't look like me, couldn't relate to. But why? The curriculum is not rich in diversity. The history of our country is to be rewritten correctly. We were taught incorrectly for many years. 70% of teachers are white. They are not reflected with the population we teach. Why? History has been centered for many years of white men. It's written by 1% of America. We're not teaching students important content of history of themselves, their own struggle or culture. So when the teachers finished their why, we presented them what the students wrote. And you could see there was a lot of different similarities between what both of them wrote. So then we took the same group of teachers who come up with the why and the same group of students who came up with the why, and then we create a video. And I want to share this 6-minute video briefly with you and to hear what they were saying. This is just a snapshot. It took close to about 60 minutes, but I snipped it to about maybe 6 minutes, and maybe we could listen to it briefly. Please let me know if you were able to hear, or did I share the audio? Are you able to hear?
Not yet.
No? Okay, so I may have to click audio and stop sharing and reshare again and click audio. So I know share sound. Here we go. Now it should work. Maybe just quickly summarize what you just said, Janai.
All right, so what I had said was that, like, with Elizabeth, there's mostly Black people, white people, or Latinos. And with this being said, always when it comes time for spring or summer, this is when schools decide to bring out Black History Month or Multicultural Month, where it should be the whole time we're in school so that kids can learn about other cultures just besides theirs or the ones they're used to, because this is where they're like normally from. And then I was saying that, like, when it comes to Multicultural Day, a lot of schools are predominantly mostly Black people or mostly Latinos or white people. And with this, a lot of other people who come to like different schools, their background isn't as shown as much as the other backgrounds are, because most of the staffs are Latino, white, or Black. So they show this more and showcase this more because this is what they have more of, and other ethnicities, they're not shown as much.
So you think about, we've done so much in the virtual setting, and I think about certain parts of history during certain months. Being that we've been in a virtual setting, we've had morning announcements, and they're so enlightening and refreshing to see different classes once a week. So if we expanded our own thinking about, as Janaya said, different cultures, and we expose every classroom, every school to a different culture, maybe not once a week, maybe it's every 2 weeks, or maybe it's once a month, but this way we become more diverse, showing different cultures and And the kids get to learn about, well, this is what happens, besides learning about what happens in the African American community. Well, this is what happens to kids who are from Peru, and this is what happens in Cuba. So kids learn and they become more exposed to other cultures. So we become a little bit more culturally sensitive because we see it. And then maybe it's someone in their class, then they can ask the question. And it's like a little, discussion for a moment in that homeroom period when we're back to school, or in that virtual setting when we're in, maybe it's a little discussion that kids, and teachers can engage in a little conversation and feel more comfortable because they've actually seen maybe a clip, maybe a video, maybe someone speaking about something. And now it opens up conversation because no one has to think of how to start the conversation because they have something to look at to actually start a conversation.
But I know, because I'm like you guys are, and like Ms. Castle was saying, I grew up in Elizabeth too. And the students here that have had me, you guys know that I'm Cuban. But growing up in Elizabeth, there weren't any Cubans in my class, and I wasn't Hispanic enough for Hispanic people, and I wasn't white enough for white people. So I never felt like I fit, and no one ever looked like me in my class, and I never looked like people wanted me to look. So I get the struggle, and I want to give
calling me names just because of my color, and sometimes I would have to go to the principal, and even if the principal was the same color as me, the principal wouldn't do anything except for tell them to stop. So ever since I moved here, I felt very calm because nobody would ever disrespect me over my skin color or my race and my culture.
That's a good point. I'm wondering, how do we create that? How do we make that happen?
We could create that, but school tool already did. I think I said that last time I was here. I've been here since I was in Ms. Riddick's class, and being as like a lot was going on in my life, especially with Ms. Riddick and Ms. Bowers, they never once judged me knowing about my history. They never judged me. And even after students found out, they still never judged me. They still included me, not like I was an outsider. And now me being in 8th grade, it's still the same way. And I feel as if the way when you walk into school too, it's like it's already your home, but you're added onto it. It's like you're never excluded from nothing, no matter what it is. Even if you get in trouble, they'll still find a way to make sure you're included in it. And I feel as if the other schools would see this, they would somehow want to also do this too, because they see how inclusive school tool is. I remember a lot of times I would get in trouble and still Ms. Roy would still try to find out a way to get me back into it so that I could feel included and never discouraged.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Okay, Mr. So I also have another idea. It's actually for morning announcements. So like, how we're talking about how we can teach about our past, but like, what about like what's happening now? Like every morning, maybe like after morning announcements, we give like a summary on what's happening. Like say like we were in school right now, we would give a summary about how Muslims are being held in concentration camps in China. Over 2 million of them are being forced out of their religion, killed, and all of that. Or also, if we were to be doing this like 2-3 months ago, we would be talking about how African Americans are among the top culture that faces police brutality and racism and discrimination and stuff like that. So like every day, or maybe just like once a week, we just summarize like what's happening in the world, because I feel like also that's like a big thing. And also like not just what's happening here, but like maybe in Hispanic countries, like what's it called? Like I think El Salvador just got hit with like this, well, not just, but like a few weeks ago got hit with a big hurricane. So they're struggling. Texas got hit with like 2 inches of snow and are struggling. Like, just like include what's happening right now too. And not just like also what's happening in the past, but also like, what's happening right now. Like, yeah.
We could probably keep going on, but I think this kind of just highlight just a small snippet of a conversation what we have with the teacher. So after this conversation, so this is what we came up with, because we thought the plan was to maybe these are some activities that came out of after we met with teachers and students, and then we share this information with the whole entire school. These are the different activities. Give your thoughts about the current attack on Asian American population. These are different activities that we came up with after we explore. Now it's coming from the students. It's also coming from our staff. Now this is not administrator driven, but now we're able to at least build some camaraderie or creating a team or relationship before we gave anything else that. So we combine some personal ways to learn about each other, but also to learn a little bit more about the history of what's taken place. So you could see the different activities. For instance, what is your weirdest nickname you've ever had? What do you admire most about yourself? Then we talk about Warner Brothers, like different ways about jobs. Do you think people should be fired or suspended? Why not? Do you think what would change? How they treat people of other race? Would training be a better way for handling situations? So these are conversations that were happening, and these came up with the group of students and then also our staff member as a whole. So, I could certainly share, these are information I could certainly share, but I wanted to give you a brief overview of what happened for a short while, for a little less than 2 months, because the process took a little while. But then now we could see what happened the fall. We took this data prior to having all this conversation. And then as a result, this is what we were able to see, the overall growth. And this is the only thing we focused on this past year: equity and inclusion. And from here, we were able to at least see this growth that I shared earlier. We didn't necessarily focus on anything else. That was the main thing. But then we saw that it also impacted other areas as a whole. So this is all I have to say for now. So I just want to thank you. And then I want to now stop sharing and have it open now for if Danielle or Janaya want to add something, and certainly ask. These were our two brilliant scholars who came, and they were just giving a lot of different feedback. So feel free to, I want to open up with some questions or comments.
Okay. I'd like to start off by saying, back to what the teachers were saying, that history is written by a white man. When history is written by a white man will want another white man to take the credit that he hasn't done. This is because the achievement was actually achieved by a person of color. Now, what I'm referring to is what we learned in school, which is Christopher Columbus discovered Earth. But if you go back, and this is all in history books, that he was the first man to stamp land on the American soil. But if you go back and you really do your research in the internet, it was actually the Vikings. Now, the Vikings, I think they are Native American. So when the school system itself is teaching you wrong from right, you grow up to believe what is wrong and you don't really understand what is right. Another thing, history taught us that Martin Luther King actually died at the hotel that he was assassinated in, but that's wrong. He actually died an hour later in the hospital. Um, Another thing, I'm very like, I love my culture, like my Hispanic culture, but if it wasn't for me researching things on my own, I would have never learned anything about it. And actually, I've noticed like a little bit changes in the school. Like it's been months since February, and February is like, Black History Month and stuff like that. And we're still learning about Black culture, and I feel like that is amazing. Right now, we're learning about the Little Rock Nine, like how their movement started and stuff like that. And we haven't really learned about Hispanic culture, and it's not a bad thing because we're kind of being a little bit like held back because the COVID situation and stuff like that. But I would like to learn about like also like in the time of Ramadan, I would like to learn about like why they do it, or like just Eastern Asian culture, Hispanic culture, and like just the Caribbean and more African American culture, because I feel like we should put everything into perspective. Like we have a few people that did Ramadan in our class, and we were talking about it in Miss Moreno's, and I liked to know like why they did it, and it's because they wanna feel what other people feel in times of need. Like this is a time where they give back and they don't eat for hours to feel how people who don't have food feel. So yeah, that's just basically what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Danielle. Danielle is our, she can certainly find some history and identify a lot of different things. Janai, really brief, just a quick 2 minutes, say something, and then we will open it up, and Mary could certainly facilitate some conversation. Go ahead, Janai.
Okay, to add on what Daniela had said, I noticed a lot of changes in my school. For instance, because today's the last day of Ramadan, my social studies teacher had us learn about it this week. But because of that, and he knows a lot of students in our class celebrate Ramadan, he gave us this week off. He said, just do your work, but if you celebrate Ramadan, you do what you have to do, because I know it's probably hard for you right now. And then to put on to also what Daniela said a lot about, the white man mostly wrote a lot of stuff dealing with America or dealing with things. And I found that a lot of stuff in our textbook is not true, or they made it to make the other countries look bad just so that America looks great. The only time you ever hear in school about another country is when it's being brought up with a war. The Russians fought against America, they did this to America. And then when we ask, well, why did Russia do that? Did America do something to them? Nobody really has answers, because nobody ever wants to see America as a bad country.
All right. Well, thank you, Janai. Thank you for sharing. So as you can see, when we open up the hearing different voices, different ideas, different perspective, some of the different things that we may know about, it may be, we may ask ourselves, wow, okay, how do we continue to funnel this? Because this can open up a lot of different perspective, a lot of different ideas, but that will also create a lot of conversations where people really move to try to understand. So in that, and sometimes what these students will do is sometimes they will pose these questions, and at times teachers and adults, we start to ask ourselves, let me research a little bit more, let me get back to you, and that just continue to create an open dialogue overall. So this is just a quick overview. What questions you have? Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, go ahead, and if there are questions from members of the audience, either for Sam or his scholars, I'd love to kind of open it up and think about, how do we actually get this rich student voice in every school? Go ahead, Janine.
One way that I had to Mr. Etienne and a lot of teachers at my school is, a lot of times, if you notice, a lot of times teachers visit schools, or if you go to a trip, you visit somewhere. I thought that, especially with Elizabeth, there's a lot of schools, and I felt that it would be cool if we made like a calendar, or if we made like, just how we have like Dr. Seuss week. We make a week where it's just cultural. Your school has whatever country or whatever they want to learn about. Let's say if it's Asia, Africa, they pick someone from there, and the school has like a little talk about it. Each class has a discussion about it, and then you can have an assembly, show it to other schools do vice versa. And this way, people are getting other people about other people's lives, seeing what it feels like in Asia, what it feels like to be in Honduras, what it feels like to be in Africa, just so everybody gets a taste of everything and everybody sees everything.
Great. Are there questions from people in the audience or comments?
Sam, it's Eliza. I put a comment that I think next year we should pair our schools up. So we're in Austin, Texas. I have a predominantly Hispanic, Latinx population, so we can do a little pairing of our third, fourth, and fifth graders.
I would love that. That would be great, because I mean, one of the things is that we are able, with technology now, we're able to touch any and everywhere, and able to have these conversations happening in classrooms. And those are the kind of trips that can certainly take place, Janaya, where it doesn't have to, we don't even have to leave our building to go somewhere. We could certainly create those trips. Ms. Brown, go ahead.
I was wondering, first of all, y'all are awesome. This is so cool. How did y'all like get the specific kids involved on the student committee when you guys did the focus group? How were those 5 kids chosen, or did they decide? What was that process like?
Yeah, so one of the things that we decided was we wanted to have kids we know that are vocal, kids that we know that doesn't necessarily bite their tongue, either good or bad, and some who maybe get in trouble, who talks about, Janiyah, we're not saying it's Janiyah, but kids that sometimes are in classrooms where they are so far ahead and thinking about a lot of different things. And we ask teachers to maybe select kids that they think would be very vocal in a classroom, and also not going to be afraid to share their thoughts and their ideas. So we had our teachers select 1 or 2 individual from their class, from their homeroom, and then we had a list of students, and then from there we went about selecting them.
Awesome, thank you.
This isn't more of a question, a comment. I just want to say how cool it was to hear students' voice to hear you two talk was amazing, because I think a lot of the times when we talk about equity work, it's around kids, but we don't have their voices in the experience. So I'm just kind of like blown away by it, about what you guys did. I thought it was so cool and like so impactful. Like I was like trying to write down what you guys wrote, but you were talking too fast. So I just thought it was really amazing.
Yeah. And I just have to add some of the things. I mean, this is just like a snippet of the different things that they provided. I mean, like last year during COVID, they came up with, hey, we're thinking, we cannot have a party for them anymore. We cannot necessarily have their caps and gowns. They're like, no, we want a goodie bag. I mean, right now, no one is able to go anywhere. We would like to have goodie bags. So what we came up with, so they said, give us certain things in the goodie bags, whatever. And maybe write a note for us to kind of tell us how much you miss us. So we were like, wow, okay. And so we had all of our teachers pick a students from the 8th grade, and they created a goodie bag for them, and they wrote them notes, and they provided them different ideas. And that was just so amazing. Every single 8th graders enjoyed that process. And again, it was just coming from them. And I think a lot of time we create ideas, policies, or different training where we don't even have their sense of ideas or their thoughts in mind. And I think when we tap into that, when we include them in that table, our schools will change drastically.
So we have a question here in the chat, is how did you get the adults to bring their authentic voices to the picture? Which is, what I think in many of our experiences, if you actually stop and listen to the students are going to be right there with you. But that there were some tough data that the adults were looking at. How did you get them to drill down?
Yeah, I think a lot of time, and I feel that our teachers, I would say large, if not all of our teachers, many of them do want to be there because they need to remember the reason why they're at the school, right? And once they start to notice what the kids were saying, and this is not administration who's saying this, when we start going back to data, this is what the kids are saying. This is how they're feeling, especially when it comes to teacher-student relationship or sense of belonging. There were some questions there that kids were saying, they don't feel seen in the classroom. Now, as a teacher, when you are seeing that your kids are saying this about where you thought you probably greet every kid in the classroom or greet every kid's coming inside the building, you thought you were doing it. So there was this dichotomy, what the kids are saying, what adults were thinking and what they were saying. So once the teachers started to see that what they thought they were doing was completely the opposite, then they're like, oh my goodness, I need to, be true to this. And they start seeing the kids are opening up. And then we create safe space as well. We create a safe space for teachers, those who want to come in. And then what we try to do, we share. These are some of the things that were conversation that were talked about. And we try to keep it open as we can. And then we started with just basic ideas. If the kids are not being seen, maybe let's start all of us greet them as they enter the building. And we started with that greeting process. And that took some time, but we saw the result of it because the kids now start noticing every morning, everyone is saying hi to them, everyone is talking to them. So once they start seeing the data starting to shift, then they slowly starting to move closer to, you know what, maybe this can work. Maybe I can certainly take part of this.
And I would say, Sam, one of the things that could go unnoticed in this whole process is that it was carefully structured so that teachers had an opportunity to kind of express what they thought, but then it was carefully structured, but it wasn't comfortable.
Right.
So it wasn't comfortable to look at that data and see the disparity. It's not always comfortable to hear the student voices. But it was part of something that students could and teachers could say, okay, this is a process we're going through. So this is the equity improvement cycle we're in. These are the ways we're doing it. I'm wondering if there's other things people are thinking about, or perhaps people want to share kind of their own questions at this point, or their own ways that they work with students.
Sam,
There's a question in the chat about going forward. Go ahead, Andrew.
Sam, I was going to ask if you had any intentions on attempting those equity and inclusion survey questions to your younger kiddos on campus.
Yeah, so I do know that so it was mostly to our 6 to 12 because that's the way that I guess Panorama has it. But I do know that we did include just the activities itself, even at the lower grades. So any process of activities, we brought it down. However, as far as question wise, I'm sure, we could certainly look at these questions because I maneuver them sometimes to even have it where teachers, because we didn't include teachers in that round. But having access to the Panorama survey with some of the questions, we could certainly tailor it if we needed to.
And I put in the chat the link to the Panorama survey that has all the questions. So if you wanted to, you might not be able to do it through Panorama, but if you wanted to use or adapt some of the questions for your students or your faculty, they're there.
I think Janai, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I want to say one thing I really love that my school does. Since we've been back in school, it's been really hard because, can't really hug nobody or touch no one. And it kind of felt weird because I was so excited to see all my teachers. But one thing I really love that they do is, even though we can't touch, they'll stand out in front of their doors and they'll go, hi, Janaya, or they'll be like, hi, guys, hi, 8th graders, you graduate. They just make you feel really welcome. And I think if other schools did that, that would be pretty cool because, even if you're having a really, really bad day, just to hear a teacher say that or joke around with you, that's just amazing. And it's really fun.
So Sam, there's one more question in the chat that I just want to highlight, which is, do you see your staff as being ready to engage students on disrupting or impacting pedagogical practice? And I would think that is sort of like the equity rounds with students. Kind of, are you anticipating equity rounds with students? Are you anticipating, I know we've talked about middle school students having the capacity and even upper elementary students having the capacity. I wonder if you think your teachers are ready or what you might be planning next.
Yeah, I do feel that we are moving to that stage, and I think this process is slow. You want to go as slow as possible, and you want to also go with the teachers who are willing. And one of the things that we know at our schools, we do have a lot of teachers who are willing, who wants to try different things, who want to get some feedback, and we do have. So as we think about the next round of having those walks, we are thinking of doing that definitely. So we're looking forward to it.
And a shout out to Janaya and Daniela, amazing voice, and keep pushing the adults, keep pushing.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Janaya.
Thank you both for your strong voices.
And thank you everybody for being here. We have about 30 seconds before we're brought back into the room. Powerful stuff today.